Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Marana Insights live via Facebook. Welcome, everyone. We are so glad you could join us. I'm Audra Winters, and I'm with the Marana Chamber of Commerce. So we have some great guests with us today. So this is a new platform, as you can see. And so please feel free to ask questions along the way. If you have any questions for our speakers, we'll be answering those for you. So I'd like now to introduce Jenny Hoffman with Imagine Realty, who will be moderating our Facebook Live today. Welcome, Jenny.
Thank you, Audra. Welcome, everyone. And this is a little bit different, so if I kind of fumble through it, bear with me. But so glad that everyone's with us today. And we do have an amazing lineup of speakers. And our first speaker is the one and only Kurt Woody, the Economic Development and Tourism Director for the town of Marana. So take it away, Kurt.
The one and only, come on, maybe like the infamous. A little bit of a short update for this month. Not a whole lot has changed in the economic development world in the past month, but a couple of stats we can give you. We'll provide the brochure that we always do for the residential update. And last month in February, we did 100 permits. So the robust residential growth is still there. We don't see it slowing down at all in 2021. And it's primarily due, we've talked about this before, to the shortage within the industry. There's just not a lot of inventory on the resale side and on the new home side. So people are jumping at every opportunity they can to get their homes purchased. In fact, if you're familiar with North Marana, where the Gladden Farms development is located, Crown West is out of lots. They're the master developer for Gladden Farms. They are now in negotiations to purchase an additional 300 acres and continue building lots through their master development plan that takes it out to Interstate 10 and Tangerine area. On the, I don't give too many updates on the tourism side, but let me just give you a couple of stats. Tourism last year for the town of Marana equated to about $142 million in tourism spending. So for every dollar that we spend on our tourism activities, and that includes salaries, is an ROI of about $452. So public money well spent towards those activities to laser focus on just the assets within the town. The Ritz-Carlton just received another double 5-star rating from Forbes. This is the second year in a row, and they measure those based on the resort side and on the spa side. And so this is the second year that they've received 5-star on both of those. It's also the highest performing product within the Marriott chain. Now, they can't sell out the entire resort, all of the rooms. They have to keep those rooms in sort of a social distancing kind of method, but they are selling out the resort. There's a lot of activity going on up there, and they're doing very well. Now, for the other hospitality assets within the town, not so well as you might expect. We're running about 48% occupancy for the year of 2020, which is 9 points higher than the national average. So we're doing better than national. We're running a little bit higher than the state of Arizona as well. So we're hanging in there. We like to say that, yeah, it's bad, but it's not as bad within the town of Marana. On the economic development side, we have Ventana Roche, which is located on Tangerine, just west of I-10. That's that standalone facility there. We've been talking about this a little bit. They're going to duplicate that facility and build another 60,000 square feet. Well, I was speaking to the developer yesterday. The plans will be into our office next week for permitting. They'll add 160 jobs, all high-tech manufacturing. So the first facility was primarily on the distribution side. They're going to move a lot of their operation from Oro Valley to this new facility. 160 high-tech manufacturing jobs. That's an economic developer's dream. So that's going to help. When we look at, from the economic development metrics, when we look at a product like that, there's the multiplier effect that we call it. And for high-tech manufacturing, it's 3.2 on the multiplier effect, which means for every job created, an additional 3 jobs are created within your community as well. Retail, as you can imagine, is on the low side at about 1.5. This is at the top of the food chain. So we welcome these jobs coming to the town. Distribution center we're still working with at Silver Bell and Ina Road, about 220,000 square feet. We're trying to get that to the finish line. We feel pretty good about that one as well. I believe that's it for economic development, and back to you, Jenny.
All right, thank you, Kurt. fantastic to see great things happening. And I can speak to the residential sale market. It's crazy out there. As a realtor, you put out a listing and you'll get multiple offers with escalation clauses and all. I mean, it's wild. So quite a market. In my 30 years of doing real estate, I've never seen a market quite this nuts. So it's going to be interesting to see, because the builders are, struggling to keep up. So.
And you know this, Jenny, there's a feeding frenzy out there. In fact, if you list your home on the market, typically you will sell it for more than what you listed for. There's a bidding war going on.
Yeah.
Not see that also, Jenny?
Yes, but we're also having some issues with the appraisers not being able to get the appraisals done in a timely fashion. And then you have issues if the appraisal doesn't come in at the sale price. So that kind of presents another unique set of problems that we sometimes have to kind of, we have to renegotiate contracts quite often because of that. But the appraisal thing, I have a house that it took 2 months for the appraiser to get out there. It was a little crazy. And my seller was like, what is going on over there? So I was sorry, this is the world we live in right now. And the lender won't let us, won't go in and put in another appraiser who could maybe react a little bit more quickly. So yeah, it's, and I don't see it ending anytime soon. It's, because we're still, as we bring in more jobs to the region, there's more people moving here. Because I do know, and I don't know if I'm stealing anybody's thunder by saying this, but I have heard Amazon is going to be increasing their presence in the region. So that's also going to be a big boom for the whole region. So now moving forward, I mean, it's been all really great news. And so now we're going to hear from Pima County Supervisor Rex Scott, District 1, who will be giving us an update. So Rex, please carry on.
Jenny, thank you very much. And we do have a PowerPoint presentation to go through with you. But before I get started on that, I just want to say it's a unique pleasure to talk with folks from the Marana Chamber, because my family and I have a lot of connections with the Marana community. My wife and I, she's like me, a career educator. She's an elementary school teacher. Our children are products of the Marana school system. They went to Ironwood, Tortolita, and graduated from Mountain View High School. Our daughter is currently a teacher at Rattlesnake Ridge Elementary. And my last position before I retired was as the principal at Tortolita Middle School. I served there for 5 years and took part at each one of those 5 years in the Marana Chamber's Principal Business Exchange. So happy to be back talking with people with connections to the Marana community. Kim, can we start our PowerPoint presentation? All right, thank you very much. And this is Kim Challender, who is a member of our District 1 team. And Kim, you can go to the first slide after this introductory slide. Thank you. I wanted to talk really quickly about the roles of the Board of Supervisors, because a lot of people aren't familiar with everything that we do. And we are essentially the executive and legislative body that oversees the operations of Pima County government. There are 5 supervisors. Each one of us represents a certain district, and I represent District 1. There's a subsequent slide where we will talk about the boundaries of District 1. We not only set laws, ordinances that govern behavior within Pima County, but we also oversee all of the operations of Pima County government. We set the tax rates for the primary property tax and then the 3 secondary taxes. And there's a slide earlier where we'll talk about that. And essentially what our job is to make sure that all of the services and supports that Pima County residents rely on are delivered with the highest level of equity, constituent service, and respect for the public revenues entrusted to us. And that speaks to why I ran for this office. Before I ran for supervisor, I had a 19-year career as either an assistant principal or a principal in public schools in 3 different school districts. And my responsibility as a school administrator was making sure that our students and their families knew about all the services and supports that the school provided, and that we administered all of them with the highest levels of equity, constituent service, and respect for the public tax dollars entrusted to us. So I saw a lot of parallels between the work I'd been doing for 19 years as an administrator and the work that we expect from county supervisors. So after I retired in July of 2019, I demonstrated my utter failure at retirement and declared for this office a few months later, was elected in November of 2020, and I've been in office since January of this year. One of the things that I found out is, and this speaks to the 3rd bullet on our slide, campaign topics versus reality, is that a lot of your issues that you address in campaign forums with your opponents, or interviews with the media, or questions from the public during a campaign deal with policy issues. And those are important, but the reality of the job that Kim and the other 2 members of our staff and I do every day is that it's heavily weighted towards constituent service, helping people in District 1 to know which county department can best help them with the problem that they bring to us. Kim, go to the next slide, please. There are, however, some policy issues that are of a special interest to me. Quality early childhood education. The board just approved a measure that I put forth to them that will put $10 million into our budget next year to provide scholarships for quality early childhood education to low-income families who want that experience for their kids. We see this as an issue to address not just brain development and kindergarten readiness. We also see it as an economic development issue. That's a big reason why the Tucson Metro Chamber and the Southern Arizona Leadership Council endorse the county taking a leadership role in quality early childhood education. Transportation, by the county's own measure, 70% of the roads in unincorporated Pima County are in poor or failed condition. That's unacceptable. And a lot of those roads are in District 1, as many of you know. The previous board passed a program called PAYGO that uses a combination of local and state funds to get all those roads up to par by 2030. I'm going to be looking at ways every year to accelerate that program. In fact, I have a measure on the agenda for the next board meeting on April 6th that will infuse an additional $50 million into that program next year. That'll allow us to address an additional 130 miles of local roads above and beyond what was planned. So look for that measure to come before the board at our next meeting on April 6th. And then affordable housing. Our county has been dealing with a lack of affordable housing. A lot of metropolitan areas in the country do. An eviction crisis, rent and housing cost crisis, families that spend more than 1/3 of their monthly income every month on their housing costs are said to be housing stressed. So we definitely need to work with the other jurisdictions and our private sector partners to increase the stock of affordable housing in our area. Next slide, please, Kim. These are the boundaries of District 1. And the rough boundaries are River Road on the south, the Pinal County line on the north, I-10 on the west, and Catalina Highway on the east. So for purposes of the town of Marana, roughly 45% of Marana is in our district, and the other 55% of Marana is in District 3, which is represented by Supervisor Bronson. Next slide, please, Kim. These are our county revenue sources, the primary property tax, and then we have 3 secondary property taxes. One funds the debt service that the county uses to pay off its long-term debt. By the way, all of our long-term debt will be paid off in, I think it's 2027 or 2028. I can't remember the exact year, but it's around that time. We also have 2 special districts that are funded by secondary property taxes, the flood control district and the library district. But all of our property taxes provide less than 40% of our local revenues. The rest of that comes from a variety of small fees, but then the bulk of those additional revenues come from state shared revenues. Our share of the state sales tax, our share of the gas tax, our share of the vehicle license tax, and other state shared revenues that we're entitled to as one of Arizona's 15 counties. Go to the next slide, please, Kim. I mentioned earlier that our biggest responsibility as a staff is addressing constituent requests. And we work especially with the 4 departments that are cited on this slide. And I have to tell you, one of the things I've been very impressed with since taking office in January is how dedicated, hardworking, knowledgeable, and responsive every county department has been. When we send a constituent email or a phone call or any kind of request to one of these departments, it's rare that they don't take care of the need that day, and certainly within 24 hours. Development services deals with planning and zoning and land use issues. So, for example, we had a call to our office recently about a gentleman who was having a dispute with his neighbor that was related to zoning issues that he and his neighbor did not agree on. We sent that concern to Development Services. They addressed it the same day and provided information to both the constituent who had contacted us and his neighbor. Development Services also works with local businesses who are seeking to expand or locate here. They generally can deal with a business's request within the same week. They operate out of the same building as the City of Tucson's Department of Development Services, and they've been helping the City of Tucson to deal with a backlog of requests from the business community that entity has had see build up during the pandemic. The health department, obviously, with the global health crisis that we're dealing with right now, the response to the pandemic and the vaccine rollout has been an extraordinary source of interest and concern to all of our constituents. The health department has already administered over 500,000 shots to Pima County residents. They not only have set up a call center to deal with calls from the public, people who are having difficulty registering for a vaccine online, but they also have a phone team that we are able to contact when there's somebody in our district, and it's often somebody in our senior citizen community who's having difficulty scheduling a vaccine. That phone team will reach out to those folks and help them to get a vaccine scheduled. Natural resources, parks, and recreation. Pima County is the only county in the state that operates what is essentially a municipal park system. And that's not surprising. If unincorporated Pima County were a city, it would be the 4th or 5th largest city in the state of Arizona. And so we have a substantial number of parks and trailheads and shooting ranges that are managed by Natural Resources, Parks, and Recreation. And then transportation, obviously, because of the number of unincorporated roads that are in poor or failed condition in Pima County, we get a lot of calls into our office regarding specific roads, when they're going to be addressed, if there's temporary patching or pothole sealing that can be done. And the transportation department is outstanding at getting back to our constituents with those questions or concerns. Go ahead and go to the next slide, Kim. Just wanted to share the website for all COVID information from the health department. It is updated on a daily basis. I encourage you to check it. We are operating 5 major points of distribution within the county, and then the state of Arizona operates a point of distribution on the University of Arizona campus, and you can go on the Arizona Department of Health Services website to get information about that point of distribution. Go to the next slide, please, Kim. This is a copy of the page that you will see if you go to the transportation website. Extraordinarily helpful website in terms of getting information about our pavement preservation program. And then if you go to that report a problem site, you will see the See, Click, Fix program, and that's a way of reporting a current issue with a particular road. And then you can also see by going to projects and planning and funding when different roads are planned for this fiscal year. Go ahead and go to the next slide, Kim. Hey, this is our wonderful District 1 staff. Kim is with me today, and Kim is someone who comes to our office with a lot of public sector and private sector experience. She worked in the marketing field before joining Pima County. I believe it was 6 years ago. She worked for the Pima County Recorder's Office, including serving as one of the deputy recorders. Kate Hiller is somebody who has a tremendous amount of experience working in our community in the nonprofit field. She's worked for Primavera, for Emerge Center for Domestic Abuse, Mobile Meals, Child and Family Resources, all kinds of nonprofit organizations within our community. Cammie Evans is another person just like Kim who has a lot of experience in Pima County, and her experience is within the Sheriff's Department. She worked under Sheriff Dupnick, Sheriff Nanos, and then for the last 4 years, she was the administrative assistant to Sheriff Napier. Cammie also has experience in the private sector working in communications. So I'm very blessed, very fortunate to have such an experienced and talented and dedicated team working with me on behalf of the people of District 1. And then Kim, if you go to the last slide, this is our contact information. You can see the phone number for our office, the email address, our website, and you can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook. I guess I'm not cool enough or maybe not young enough to have an Instagram, but there you go. And at that point, Jenny, we are done with our slideshow. And by my count, we've got about 5 or 6 minutes left. I'm happy to answer any questions that your members might have.
Okay, Audra or Tammy, did we get any questions?
I don't see that there's any questions, but please go ahead and put them in the chat if you do, and we can get them answered either at the end or later on in the day.
Okay, and actually, I have a question for you.
Go ahead, Jenny.
Because of my primary business in real estate, I'm a property manager, and I do sales. I offer full service. I know that the county has been struggling to get the rental assistance payments out. Can you give us an update on where this is at? Because I have a vested interest in this, because I have a couple of tenants who have applied and are struggling, and we're trying to get them as much assistance as possible.
I absolutely can. With the federal funds that have been given to Pima County for rental assistance, we got the first batch of those funds with the first CARES Act that was passed back in the spring of 2020 and helped over 8,000 families at that point. The money that we're dealing with right now was given to both the city and Pima County by the Consolidated Appropriations Act that was passed in December. The city got around $19 million, the county about $15 million, and we are working together to get that money out to the community as quickly as possible. We also have contracted with the Community Investment Corporation to get that money out as quickly as possible. We have a special board meeting today, and I asked the county administrator yesterday to give us an update on how we were doing getting to people who were on the waiting list. You probably know, Jenny, that we had a waiting list of right around 4,000 people. As of March 12th, when we got a report from the Community and Workforce Development Department, we contacted 1,800 of those folks. My question to the county administrator today is, of the remaining 2,200, how many have we contacted since that last report date to the board of March 12th? As you correctly point out, the biggest thing that we can do to prevent evictions in this community is to get those funds out to the tenants and landlords who've applied to them. That has got to be our highest priority. And I'm pleased that we're working with the city and the Community Investment Corporation to prioritize that work.
Great, thank you very much. Yeah,
Thank you.
that is a big issue, because, you know, landlords don't want to evict,
No.
but, you know, they still have mortgages to pay. They still have repairs to make, because by statute, they still have to take care of these properties. And I've got again, a couple that have been struggling, but, you know, it's good to see that there is some solid activity moving forward. And then as we, you know, kind of get out of all of this, you know, my portfolio is about 225 homes, and I only have 2 tenants that have struggled. I mean, most of my tenant base has been doing okay.
And I've met with a lot of local landlords and property managers, and the ones who have the stories that have affected me the most are the small investors, the so-called mom and pop landlords. They're the ones who are really struggling the most during this time. And it's been important as a board member to hear that input.
Yeah, because most of my client base, this is like this is their retirement savings is in this house. I don't have any, you know, big, you know, commercial clients. So all of my clients are mom and pops. And it's, you know, they're all scared.
Yeah.
And, you know, they're like, okay, you know, we don't want to evict our tenant, but we need somebody who can pay the rent.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. Well, great. Well, thank you for that update. And I'll look forward to hearing more coming out of the county on that.
Thank you, Jenny. We have, as I said, an emergency board meeting this morning. It starts at 10 o'clock. Steve Huffman, who is the president of the Tucson, not the president, the
Government Affairs Director.
Thank you, Government Affairs Director for the Tucson Association of Realtors, is one of the people who I know has been most interested in the processes that the county and city are following in getting those funds out into the community. And
Yeah.
I'm sure Steve will be sharing updates with his members.
Yeah, because I sit on our government affairs committee at TAR, and even though we have the same last name, we're not related. And I know everybody is like, well, are you guys really? No, we're just, you know, just happen to share the same name. But yeah, he's actually been really helping us a lot with keeping up with all of that. And we do appreciate, you know, any assistance we're getting from the county. So great. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. Did we have any questions pop up?
No questions at this time. So
Okay.
thank you again, Rex.
You bet. My pleasure. And please, whether you're a resident of District 1 or not, contact our office if we can do anything to be of service and support to anybody in the audience. We are here to help.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay.
And is it all right to stay logged in to hear Jane's
Oh.
presentation?
Please.
Yes.
All right.
Okay. Our next speaker is Jane Farrell, the town attorney for the town of Rana, and she will be giving us an update. Welcome, Jane.
Thank you, Jenny. Thank you, Audra and Chamber, for having me. I'm going to start just by telling a little bit about myself. I'm a native Tucsonan, grew up here, grew up in the same house for 23 years, as a matter of fact. I went to the U of A for both my undergraduate and my law school degrees. I started my career as a prosecutor for the city of Tucson. I spent about 8 years there, and then I spent about 2 years at Tucson Unified School District in their legal counsel. And as we were sitting here, Rex and I realized that we were there at the same time and probably crossed paths at some time or another. And I came to Marana actually in 2005. And I brought the prosecution office in-house for Marana at that time. Prior to that, they had outside counsel on a contract that did all the prosecution work. Frank Cassidy was the town attorney, and he wanted to bring that criminal work in-house. So that is probably one of the highlights, or is really the highlight of my career, was the opportunity to come here and start that office for the town back in 2005. So I've been here almost 16 years at this point. Frank retired at the end of October of last year. So I was honored to be given the opportunity to be the town attorney starting last November, and to build this team further. So I do have a PowerPoint. I was just going to tell everybody a little bit about what the legal department does, who we are, what we do, what we don't do. So hopefully I'll try to share my screen here and see if this works. And here we go. Does everybody see that? Okay. So our legal department is comprised of 4 attorneys right now, but 5 normally is what we have. We had been at 4 attorneys for many years, but it was a couple of years ago that we were able to get another attorney position. As you can see, we have a deputy town attorney, Libby Shelton, who is she took the position that I used to hold when Frank was the town attorney. David Udall is our assistant town attorney. Luke Fisher is the senior assistant town attorney, and he is currently the town prosecutor. So he is in charge of the prosecution function for our office. And we have a vacant position with an associate town attorney. That position's been vacant since Frank retired. So we've all been a little shorthanded and learning new things and filling new roles. But we have hired someone, and he is going to start on April 12th. So we're very excited about that. Our legal assistant, Noelia Montano, our legal document specialist, Tracy Gum, they both work with the prosecution team. There is a lot of paperwork, subpoenas, disclosure, you name it, victim notices that they take care of. And then we have a part-time administrative assistant, Lucinda Norris. So we have essentially 2 divisions in our department. There's the civil work and there's the criminal work. Right now, the way that the work is broken down, myself and Libby and David do the civil work at this point. And then Luke and David again do the criminal prosecution work. David will most likely be moving out of the criminal field into solely civil work once we get our new attorney on board. This is our current list of attorney assignments. I thought it would just be interesting to see what the different breakdowns are as far as different departments that we each represent, because it's kind of how we look at it. Like, these are our client departments that we represent and areas that we represent. My practice at this point is heavily weighted towards development issues, working with development services, with planning, with Kurt in economic development, and that sort of thing. And Libby works a great deal with the police department. One of her roles, which I think is extremely important, is that she's the police legal advisor. So when we have something happen, an officer involved shooting or something like that, Libby's the person that they're calling in the middle of the night to come out to the scene and make sure that everything's being done legally and above board and that sort of thing. David has the airport. He has the water department, which is obviously extremely important to the Marana's growth and development. And then Luke, as I said, he is the town prosecutor now. Soon we'll have a 5th column there with our new prosecutor. And we are very excited about that. So we advise the town and legal departments on legal issues, the town council, the planning commission, board of adjustment. We draft contracts, ordinance, policies, all of those things. And we just give day-to-day legal advice to anybody in the town. Town manager's office, department heads are usually the people that are contacting us, but even other staff will just pick up the phone. I think that one of the things that we try really hard is to be very accessible to our clients. I've heard people tell stories of other agencies or jurisdictions where they've worked where they weren't allowed to talk to the attorneys, or they weren't allowed to just call the attorney. They had to go through some process. And we really try not to do that. We're just here to help, and we have open doors, open phone lines, open emails. But that last bullet point I think is important, is that we don't give legal advice to private citizens. That's not what we're here for. We're giving legal advice to our town clients. And we do get calls from time to time from people who want us to give them advice about generally something like a neighbor dispute or a property dispute, things like that. And we have to let them know that that's really not our role here. We represent the town in legal proceedings. For the most part, the town is a member of the Arizona Municipal Risk Retention Pool. Most of the cities and towns in Arizona are, and it's a self-insured pool. And generally speaking, the pool will hire an attorney when we're sued to represent us, and the legal department doesn't handle litigation ourselves on the civil side. But we do need to coordinate with outside counsel. At times we are co-counsel on those cases. There's a lot of issues with scheduling depositions, with getting all of the information, disclosure, all of those things to the outside counsel. And we have from time to time handled litigation ourselves. We have a couple of lawsuits right now that Frank was handling. Well, one of them that he was handling, and he's continued to represent us even after his retirement. We've kept him as counsel on one of those lawsuits. The prosecution and victim services functions, we prosecute misdemeanor offenses that occur in the town of Marana. And I think there's a further slide that will explain what those cases are, but it's, consulting with the officers, reviewing the police reports. One of the big areas that we have a responsibility as a prosecuting agency is to make sure that we're complying with victims' rights. In Arizona, the victims' rights are in both the Arizona state constitution, and they are codified in state statutes and state criminal procedures. So that's something that we spend a lot of time and take very seriously, making sure that we're getting victims' rights notifications and communicating with victims of crime. We appear in Marana Municipal Court for all sorts of hearings. I mean, it's a very busy courtroom. It's been a strange year with COVID. We've done a lot of remote hearings online and call-in. And we've also spaced out hearings, whereas before it would be kind of like a cattle call and you'd have 50 people in the courtroom all at once. The judge has spaced out hearings to not have so many people. So that's been an interesting year, but it is a very busy high volume courtroom. Our judge is Lainey McDonald, and Lainey actually started here in our office. So that's something that I want to brag about, I guess, is that we hired Lainey when she was in her third year of law school, and she was here working for us for many years as our prosecutor, and then moved into civil and has been the judge now for several years, and is an excellent judge. So this slide shows a list of the types of cases that we typically handle. DUI and domestic violence are two of the main things that we handle. We have pretty stringent DUI laws in the state of Arizona, some of the most stringent in the country in terms of mandatory jail sentences and high fines and ignition interlock requirements and those things. So, and they change frequently. And so that's an area of real expertise for our prosecutors and our attorneys. The Shoplifting cases, we do have a lot of shoplifting cases in, in our, obviously our retail areas. The Arizona Pavilions area is sometimes a problem area, or the Ina and Thornydale area. So we try to work very closely with those businesses to have good relationships with them and prosecute the cases that they want prosecuted. So that's one of the things we do. Animal cases, that's something that we previously had a contract with Pima County, and Pima County Animal Care Center was our provider for animal control and animal cases. And a few years back, I think in 2016, I might not be exactly right about that date, we were able to bring animal care and animal control in-house and start our own department. And that's just been a wonderful undertaking for the town. And, it's nice to have our animal control officers in-house when our prosecutors have cases that they need to deal with. And also just to tailor our town code and our animal code to the town of Marana's needs, because it's not necessarily the same as, what it might be in Tucson or what it is in unincorporated Pima County. And so having that, just that self-determination, that autonomy has been a really nice thing. The drug offenses we're in an interesting time with the passage of Prop 207 and the legalization of recreational marijuana. And so I'm not the expert anymore. I was a prosecutor for so long, and I didn't understand how when people stopped doing it, they forgot or they didn't keep up. And now that I'm in that position, I realize how hard it is to keep your 1 foot understanding what's going on in the criminal world when you're doing all of these other things. But many of the, if not all of the pending marijuana possession charges, and particularly at the misdemeanor level, these were pretty low level offenses where just personal possession cases. We're not talking about drug dealers or anything like that. Those cases have been dismissed or in the process of being dismissed, and trying to figure out where we go from here with drug offenses with the changing law. As I mentioned earlier, we do have a high volume of cases, and those numbers show you where we're at. It is higher than, for example, our neighbors in Oro Valley or Sarita. We do have a higher volume of cases. I think we have a bigger area to cover, and there are a lot of traffic cases involved with those numbers. And I think we also just have a very active police department. And I don't mean that to say that they're out there issuing citations willy-nilly, but they are active and they are out in the community. And it's a very well-run, very, I have nothing but the highest regard for our police department and the way that they operate. So. And I think that explains in a nutshell what we do in the legal department, who our people are, and I'd be happy to answer any questions or anything. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. We did have one question so far. I'll check and see if there's any others. But have you seen an uptick in domestic violence cases since COVID-19?
We have. I couldn't tell you the exact numbers, but yes, there has been an increase in cases, unfortunately. And I think there's been a trend of an increase across the country. So that's troubling. We do have mandatory counseling requirements in Arizona. And one of the things that I think that is changed a lot over the years that I've been an attorney, which is since 1995. But even when I started, it used to be that a lot of domestic violence prosecutions didn't occur. That if a victim said she didn't want to prosecute, and I say she, it could be a he, but statistics show it typically is a woman that's the victim. Prosecutors would just say it's a family matter and drop the cases, and that's really been a shift over the years I've been an attorney. And even when I started at the city of Tucson, they had a strong policy of prosecuting domestic violence cases, even if the victim was saying that she didn't want to, because we felt that it wasn't a family matter, it's a criminal matter, and it needs to be addressed. And a big part of the domestic violence cases, and in Arizona, we do have the mandatory domestic violence counseling, and it's to try to help people to prevent worse things from happening. And again, we're working at the misdemeanor level, so it's typically not serious injuries or things of that nature, although we do occasionally have some very serious cases that for some reason weren't prosecuted as a felony. But in any event, unfortunately, yes, we have seen an increase in DV cases.
Thank you. Any other questions from our audience? All right, if there's no other questions, Jane, thank you again.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, that concludes our Facebook Live for Marana Insights today. I'd like to thank our guests once again. Kurt, you always give us great information, and always enjoy hearing from you. Rex, thank you for your time today. It was great meeting you, even though it's virtually, but look forward to working with you, and thank you for your service. And please reach out to the chamber if there's anything we can do for you. And of course, Jane, great to hear all the wonderful things that the legal department does. I always enjoy listening to you and all the knowledge that just flows out of you at the town council meetings. So kudos to you. And of course, Jenny, thank you for moderating us today. And we know you have a lot on your schedule with trying to keep everybody in a home and finding homes and selling them and all of that good stuff. So thank you for your time. And of course, Kim, for stepping in today and running the show for Rex, and for your service too with the county. And of course, I couldn't do it without Tammy. So thank you, Tammy, for monitoring all of our questions online. And of course, our Facebook audience, thank you for joining us today. And we just want to wish you all a great day, and to be kind to one another. And if there's anything that the chamber can do for you, please feel free to reach out to us. Take care, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.